History remembers the name Christopher Columbus as the man who opened the door to the New World, but it barely remembers the man himself. We know he crossed the Atlantic. We know the dates, the routes, the names of the ships, and yet we know surprisingly little about who he really was. The official story tells us that Columbus was the son of a weaver from Genoa, a simple origin, a clear birthplace, a convenient biography. But the strange part is this: Columbus himself never clearly confirmed it. He never wrote in Italian. His letters and journals were written in Castilian Spanish, but filled with unusual errors, ones that don't match either an Italian or a native Spanish speaker. It reads like the language of someone raised between cultures. No lifetime portrait of Columbus exists. Every image we recognize today was created decades, sometimes centuries, after his death. They are symbolic reconstructions, not real likenesses. Even his signature looks like a code, an unusual structure, strange symbols, a form scholars have tried to decode for generations, without agreement. Over the centuries, more than 20 different theories about his origin have emerged. Genoa, Portugal, Castile, Catalonia, Greece, Poland, Scandinavia. Each theory has evidence, each has gaps. There are simply too many contradictions for a man considered one of the most documented figures of his age. Which leads to a deeper question. Why did the man who changed the map of the world leave behind so little truth about his own life? Perhaps the answer isn't buried in archives. Perhaps it lies in something he deliberately tried to conceal. 5 centuries after his death, a science that did not exist in Columbus's lifetime gained the ability to speak where history fell silent. Not documents, not chronicles, but genes. And they were about to say what he never did. For centuries, historians tried to solve the mystery using paper, archives, contracts, letters, court records, and the deeper they searched, the more fragmented the story became. More than 20 rival theories emerged, each claiming a different homeland for Christopher Columbus. Italy pointed to Genoa and the name Cristoforo Colombo. Portugal suggested he was a covert operative tied to the court of King Juan II. Others placed his origins in Catalonia, Castile, Greece, Poland, even Scandinavia. None of these theories fully explained the contradictions. Columbus wrote almost exclusively in Castilian Spanish, but not like a native speaker. His grammar patterns, word choices, and recurring errors resemble someone who learned the language later in life, influenced by another linguistic system. At the same time, his writing shows no trace of standard Italian usage. This was not ignorance. Columbus was highly educated. He read Latin, quoted classical authors, and navigated complex political courts. Language was not a weakness. It was a clue. Then there was his silence. For a man who meticulously recorded winds, distances, and celestial observations, Columbus was remarkably vague about his own past. No clear hometown, no childhood stories, no family background described in detail. Even official documents contradicted one another. Different spellings of his name, different birth years, different claims filed at different times, as if his identity shifted depending on the audience. The uncertainty followed him even after death. Today, remains attributed to Columbus are divided between multiple locations, the most prominent being Seville Cathedral. When researchers opened the tomb, they found only a small collection of bone fragments, barely 200 grams in total. That raised a disturbing question. Were these remains truly his? To answer it, scientists turned not to history, but to biology. The remains believed to belong to Columbus were compared with those of his brother Diego and his son Fernando. Only a genetic match across generations could confirm that the bones in Seville belonged to the admiral of the Ocean Sea. This was no longer a debate of theories or national pride. It was a forensic investigation. And for the first time in 500 years, Columbus could no longer control the story. His DNA was about to speak, whether he wanted it to or not. The breakthrough came not from a single test, but from years of refinement. The bone fragments recovered from Christopher Columbus were extremely degraded. 5 centuries of decay had erased most usable genetic material, but modern techniques made the impossible viable. Scientists focused on 2 genetic markers that survive even extreme degradation. The Y chromosome, passed from father to son, which traces the paternal line, and mitochondrial DNA, inherited from the mother, which traces maternal ancestry. By comparing these markers with verified remains of Columbus's brother Diego and his son Fernando, researchers were able to confirm one critical fact first. The bones in Seville did belong to the same family. Once identity was established, ancestry analysis followed. What emerged challenged centuries of assumption. The genetic signatures did not align cleanly with a northern Italian origin. Instead, multiple markers were consistent with Sephardic Jewish populations of the Western Mediterranean, communities historically present along the eastern coast of Spain and nearby islands. This did not mean Columbus practiced Judaism openly. In fact, the opposite was far more likely. In 1492, the same year Columbus sailed west, Spain issued the Alhambra Decree, ordering the mass expulsion or forced conversion of Jews. Publicly revealing Jewish ancestry at that moment was not just dangerous, it was fatal. Seen through this lens, long-standing mysteries begin to connect. The deliberate vagueness about his origins, the coded signature, the absence of a clear homeland, the careful construction of a biography acceptable to royal patrons. If Columbus was a converso, a Jew forced to live outwardly as a Christian, silence was not deception, it was survival. And the voyage itself takes on a different meaning. Not just an expedition for wealth or glory, but a mission led by a man who understood exile, searching for opportunity, protection, and permanence in an uncertain world. History was written by victors, archivists, and courts. But DNA has no loyalty. It does not care about titles, myths, or national narratives. It preserves truth quietly until technology is ready to listen. 500 years later, the genes spoke, and they revealed not just where Columbus may have come from, but why he spent a lifetime making sure no one ever knew.